Sit with me somewhere for a minute. I want you to really be in this room. It is a Sunday afternoon in Naperville, Illinois. You are 71 years old. You are on your daughter's couch, and there is a stack of glossy brochures fanned out on the coffee table in front of you. Whispering Pines. Harvest Grove. Every cover has the same photograph on it. Silver-haired folks laughing over cards. An old fella in a rocking chair on a wide porch with a blanket across his knees. Your daughter is handling you gently. You can hear it in how slowly she picks her words. This is not us giving up on you, she says. This is us making sure somebody is close by if you need a hand. The food is supposed to be excellent. There would be people around, and every word out of her mouth is kind, and not one of them lands the way she means it. What lands on you is this: they have already decided how the story ends. All that is left is picking the room where it happens. My name is Dennis Kruger. I am 71 years old. 2 years back, my 3 grown children put me in a chair for what my oldest called a talk about the road ahead. What it turned out to be was a presentation. Laura had already toured 4 separate places within an hour of her house. She had a spreadsheet, costs, staffing, waitlists, all lined up in columns. My son Curtis had dug into which ones kept nurses on site overnight. My youngest, Diane, had worked out a rotation for who would drive out on which weekend. They covered everything, every last thing, except the one that mattered. Not one person in that room ever turned and asked me what I wanted. So let me tell you what I did about it. I listed the house in Rockford. I gave away nearly everything inside it. I packed 2 suitcases, bought a one-way seat to Bangkok, and went to Thailand alone at 71 years old, while my own children stood in my driveway convinced the old man had slipped his moorings. And it is the finest thing I have done with myself in 30 years. But let me show you how a man ends up on that couch in the first place, looking down at pamphlets for a place he would not set foot in on a bet. My wife Marilyn died 3 years ago, ovarian cancer, and it did not take its time. From the appointment where they told us to the morning I buried her was maybe 6 months. 45 years we had been married, 3 kids raised under one roof. She taught 4th grade most of her life. I spent 35 years as a tool and die machinist at a plant on the south end of Rockford, back when that town still made things. Then she was gone, and not one piece of it fit anymore. The house turned too big and too quiet in the same week. Every room had something in it that reminded me of her without giving her back. The kids started calling more. At the start it felt like love. Somewhere along the line it started feeling like being watched. Tuesday nights, Laura. Every Thursday, a message from Curtis, regular as a bill. Sunday afternoons, Diane on video. Same questions every time. Are you eating? Are you getting out at all? Did you take the blood pressure pill this morning? I understood every bit of it. They had just put their mother in the ground and they were terrified of doing it again. But understanding a thing does not make it easier to live inside of. About half a year after Marilyn went, something got hold of me I could not name. Not grief, exactly. I had sat across from a grief counselor. I knew what that animal looked like. This was different. It was closer to slowly coming awake to the fact that the life I was walking around inside of was not mine anymore. It had belonged to the 2 of us. With her out of it, I was just running the machinery of something that had already stopped. Out of bed at 6:30, because that is the hour I have always gotten out of bed. Same coffee maker, same chair. I would read the Rockford paper cover to cover and could not have repeated one line back to you. Then I would go hunting for something to fill the rest. Tighten a hinge that was not loose. Push a cart around the store, putting things in it I had no use for. A neighbor of mine, Gil, got me out to lunch one Saturday. Same diner, same sandwiches. And part way through his, Gil set it down and said, "Dennis, where are you? Because you are not here at this table." "Fine," I told him. "I am fine." That night I sat in that quiet front room and finally let a question up out of the basement, one I had been stepping over for years. If nothing on this earth was holding me, if I could be anywhere and be anybody, what would I actually do with it? And the answer came up so fast it took the wind out of me. I would go. Now, I did not roll over one morning and decide on a whim to move halfway around the planet. It took months, and it started about as ordinary as a thing can start. I was at the Veterans Clinic in Rockford, Vietnam. 2 tours. I still get most of my care through the VA. I got to talking with another vet out in the waiting area, fella named Sam, 65 or so, Thai-American. Family came over when he was a boy, and he happened to mention he had just gotten back from 3 weeks in Thailand seeing his mother's people. Out came the phone, water so clear it did not look real. A family gathering at a cousin's house, 50 people packed around, folding tables, bowing under the food. He said he had been turning over the idea of retiring there himself, said the same checks that barely covered him here would carry a man 3 times as far over there. Said his relatives treated him like visiting royalty every time he walked through the door. I could not tell you why, but I drove home and I could not put that conversation down. And then I did something I had not done in a long time. I got curious. Just reading, at first. What does it actually cost to live over there? Blogs by people who had already done it. Videos made by retired Americans in Bangkok, in Chiang Mai, down along the beach towns. I read up on the long-stay visa they have for foreign retirees, the non-immigrant OA. And the further in I got, the more something came loose in me. Not excitement. More like finding a door in a wall you have walked past every day for 20 years without once seeing it was there. I kept it to myself. Never breathed a word to my kids. I got into the expat groups and started putting questions to people. What is the medical care like for an older man on his own? Is it safe? The answers came back scattered. Some called it the smartest move of their lives. Others lasted a year and went running home. But the ones who had stayed, the ones 10 and 15 years deep, all told me the same thing. It is not paradise. Nowhere is. But it beats getting old and lonesome in a country where everything costs double and not one soul has 10 minutes to spare for you. That one went in deep and it stayed. 4 months in, I struck a bargain with myself. I would go have a look. 2 weeks. And if it turned out to be nothing, I would come home and never bring it up again. I let the kids believe it was nothing but a holiday. When Laura pressed me, I said Southeast Asia, and I watched her whole face change shape. Is that safe? She said. At your age. I told her I would manage. She was not satisfied, but she dropped it. Out of O'Hare in February. February in Illinois is not weather, it is a sentence being served. I came down in Bangkok most of a day later and stepped out into air so thick and warm it was like walking into somebody's held breath. It was bedlam. Traffic knotted in every direction. 3-wheeled taxis buzzing the gaps. Motorbikes threading through openings that were not there a half-second earlier. Carts selling grilled meat and cut fruit and phone chargers and 40 things I could not name. Loud. Overwhelming. And so completely, ferociously alive. I loved every second of it. 4 days I gave Bangkok. Nothing fancy for a room over in Sukhumvit, where an old man can still get about on foot. I ate off plastic stools on the sidewalk. I rode the sky train. I sat in Lumpini Park and let the whole churning place go past me. And for the first stretch in about 2 years, I was not a ghost. Nobody looked straight through me. Folks spoke to me. The woman at the corner shop wanted to know where I had come from, then told me all about a nephew of hers in Chicago. A taxi driver went out of his way to make certain nobody clipped me on the fare. A man at a noodle stand struck up a conversation for no reason beyond the fact that I was eating alone and he figured I might want company. It was not pity. It was not somebody working an angle on the old foreigner. It was plain, ordinary human friendliness, the kind I had honestly assumed they had quit making. From Bangkok I went down the coast about 3 hours to a town called Hua Hin, and that is where the floor moved under me. Hua Hin is nothing like Bangkok. Small, sits right up against the Gulf. An old fishing town the Thai royal family started summering in a century back, which is why a place its size has better bones than it has any right to, a proper hospital, real markets, a long beach, and a pier where the boats come in at first light. And it had the one thing Bangkok could not hand me. It was a size a man could get his arms around. I took a place for the week down at the south end, a neighborhood called Khao Ta Kiab, where the sand runs up against a big green hill with a temple on top of it. 1 bedroom, 5th floor, and a balcony aimed straight out at the water. 14,000 baht a month, round it to $400, furnished, internet running. I sat out on that balcony my first evening with a cold bottle of Chang, under $1 for it, and I sat there while the light went out of the Gulf. And I thought, plain as anything I have ever thought, I could do this, not come see it, live in it. The rest of that week I wore holes in my shoes. I walked myself through Bangkok Hospital, Hua Hin, the big private one in town, clean, modern, English on every sign and staff who spoke it well. I asked what an ordinary appointment costs. About 900 baht, $27. Back home, with Medicare in my wallet, I have handed over more than that just to have a man look down my throat and tell me it is nothing. And I started meeting people. A fellow named George out of California, 74, 8 years in Hua Hin. He had come over after burying his wife. Same road I was standing on. He said the first stretch was rough, but once his days took on a shape, he stopped being able to picture going back. He took me down to the pier for seafood, grilled right off the boats, and it was so good I went back 3 nights that week. By the time those 2 weeks ran out, I already knew. I flew home to Illinois and kept my mouth shut. Made the lists a man makes. What I would be handing over in one column, what I would be picking up in the other. I thought about the kids, the grandbabies, that house and those habits. And then I thought about the balcony. The water going gold and then going black. $1 beer. People smiling at me for no reason except that it is how they are built. 3 weeks home, I called a real estate agent and put the place up. And that is when the roof came off the house. Laura got wind of it first. She had driven out to lend me a hand with something and spotted the sign standing in the yard. She did not shout. That girl has never once shouted at me in her life. She went very still and very quiet, which is a good deal worse, and she said, "Dad, what is this?" I told her, "Thailand." She looked at me like I had announced I was joining a traveling circus. Then she got Curtis and Diane on the phone, and 2 days later the 3 of them were sitting in my front room. And that is the afternoon the brochures came out of her bag. Laura ran that meeting like a woman with a case to argue, printouts, articles, a written list, and she went down it 1 line at a time. You are 71 years old. You do not speak a word of the language. You do not know one living person over there. What happens the first time you get sick? What happens if you go down in that apartment and there is nobody to find you? Curtis picked it up behind her. Do you have any concept of how far that is? Something happens, we cannot just get in the car. And Diane, who has never once put a soft edge on anything for anybody, looked at me straight and said, "Dad, this is madness. You cannot move to a country you have been inside of 1 time for 14 days. I let all 3 of them run out of road, and when the room went quiet, I said, "I understand exactly why you are frightened, and I am still going." Laura's voice came apart. "We are not trying to run your life. We are trying to keep you alive." And I believe that is what they thought they were doing. But here is what I could not make myself say across that coffee table. Alive and safe are not the same animal. I had been safe for 2 solid years. Safe in that house. Safe at that grocery store, that diner, that clinic. Safe and small and so lonesome I could barely stand to be in a room alone with myself. What I said instead was that I had done my homework, coverage that would follow me overseas, money set by, months of talking with people already on the ground. But a plan was not what they were after. They wanted me in Illinois. And the meeting did not blow up. It ended in something that sits a good deal heavier than a fight. It ended quiet. The kind of quiet that tells a man precisely how far he has fallen in the eyes of the people he loves most. Over the weeks that followed, I emptied that house out, kept the photographs and a few things of Marilyn's, made my goodbyes up and down the block, and my children barely spoke to me. Laura called once. She did not ask a single thing about the move. She asked whether I had stopped to think about what this was going to do to them. "Do you have any idea what you are putting us through?" she said. "We buried Mom. Now you are leaving too." That went in like a nail, and it stayed in for weeks. But I knew, sitting there with that phone against my ear, that if I stayed out of guilt, the guilt would rot into resentment. I would resent them, and after enough years, I would resent myself. And they would feel every bit of it, every Sunday, for whatever was left. The night before the flight, Diane rang me. She did not have much to say. Just be careful. Please be careful, Dad. I promised her I would. And in the morning I got on the airplane. Chicago to Bangkok with a stop in Tokyo is around 20 hours. That is a long stretch locked in a seat with your own head, long enough to talk yourself into believing you have made the largest mistake of your life. Long enough to hear your daughter's voice again, saying, "We buried Mom, and now you are leaving too." But it is also long enough to remember, somewhere over the Pacific, exactly what put you in that seat. I came down at Suwan Na Poom on a Tuesday afternoon at the tail end of April. The heat took hold of me the second the door opened. I had a driver booked ahead, Som Chai. He was holding a square of cardboard with my name on it, spelled about 4 different kinds of wrong, and grinning so hard about it that I could not bring myself to correct him. "Welcome to Thailand, sir. You were here before?" "Once," I told him. "This time I am staying." He pulled us out into Bangkok traffic, which is less a commute than a religious experience. Motorbikes carrying entire households. Father steering, mother behind him with a baby against her chest. Not a helmet among them. I watched a man go by on a scooter with a stack of plastic chairs lashed on behind him that stood a head taller than he did. Somchai caught me gaping. "Do not worry, sir. Soon you do not even see it." I had my doubts. We drove south 3 hours. The plan was to get down past Hua Hin to a smaller, quieter place called Pra Chuap Kiri Khan, a working fishing town folded into a curve of the Gulf, and sit still a couple of weeks until I found my feet. But the last connection south had already gone for the night. Som Chai put me in a little inn a block off the water, 500 baht, $14 near enough. A bed, a ceiling fan, a shower that ran at 2 temperatures, cold and a shade less cold than that. But somebody had scrubbed it, and when I stretched out on that bed after the better part of a day in the air, there was not one flicker of panic in me. What was there instead was something I had not felt in a very long while. I felt like a man standing exactly where he was meant to be standing. I carried on down the next morning. A working town, boats in the harbor, and almost nothing laid on for tourists, which was precisely what I was after. The guest house was run by a Thai couple in their 50s, Prasit and Ma Lee. Ma Lee walked me up to a room hardly wider than a closet with a window looking out over the water. She asked if I wanted anything. "No," I said. "I am fine." She looked at me a moment longer than she needed to and said, "You look tired. I bring you food." I started to tell her there was no need, and she was already going back down the stairs. 20 minutes on, she came back with rice and a fried egg and a piece of grilled fish, set it under that window, and told me, "Eat, then sleep." I had known the woman 40 minutes, and she fed me like I had come out of her own kitchen my whole life. That set the shape of those weeks. I would wake, Molly would appear with breakfast, I would walk the town and back, and I would talk to anybody who would talk to me. There was an Australian named Danny, 6 years in. His marriage had come apart in Sydney, and he had gone looking for somewhere simpler, and he told me flat out he had not had a bad day since. There was a woman named Hua Hin with a shop near the sand, widowed, open 7 days and not the least bit worn down by it. She asked where I had come from, and when I said Illinois, she laughed in my face. "Very cold," she said. "Not here. Here only hot, and then more hot. But I owe you the hard parts too." There were mornings I woke with no earthly idea what to do with the day in front of me. Back in Rockford I had my ruts, and God forgive me, I missed them. Out here I had nothing, no language, no sense of the rules. I felt like a boat somebody had cut loose from the dock. About a week in, I called Laura. Her voice came through careful, the way you handle a thing that has already been dropped once. "Hi, Dad." "Hi, sweetheart. So how is it over there?" My eyes went to the window. The sun was going down behind the harbor, and the whole sky had gone the color of a peach somebody had dropped on the floor. Kids were hollering out in the lane. Somebody had fish over a fire. The air coming through smelled like salt and charcoal. "It is good," I told her. And then, because I have never in my life managed to lie to that girl, I told her the rest. It is hard, but it is good. She was quiet a beat. "I am still angry with you," she said. "I know you are. But I am glad you are all right." That was the whole of what I was getting that day. And I will tell you, it was plenty. I hung up feeling like a rich man. 2 weeks in Prachuap and I knew it was not the place. Beautiful and far too small. I needed a real hospital and real markets and a runway I could get on if something went wrong at home. Somewhere a man could put a life together, not just take a very long vacation. So I went back up the coast to Hua Hin. Only this time I was not looking, this time I was moving in. I tracked down Nok, the woman who owned the place I had rented before. She made me an offer standing right there. 11,000 baht a month if I would put 6 months down. $320, near enough. I said yes before she finished the sentence. 2 suitcases and a shoulder bag was the sum total of everything Dennis Kruger owned at 71 years old. Nock met me downstairs with the keys and walked me through the place again, where the water shuts off, how to talk the air conditioner into cooperating. And then she smiled and said, "Welcome home." I am not too proud to admit my eyes went hot standing in that stairwell with a suitcase in each hand. Those first weeks, I was starting from nothing. How you get a phone that works, how you pay an electric bill, which of the benched-out pickup trucks goes where. Like being 19 again, except slower and with worse knees. But I was not doing it on my own for long. The building got hold of me almost immediately. Right next door was a woman named Ploy, early 40s, nurse at the big hospital, bringing up a son and a daughter by herself. I first laid eyes on her coming up the stairs with 6 bags of shopping hanging off both arms while she fought her key into the lock. I took the bags off her before she could argue. She looked at me like I had handed her a bar of gold. "Kop kun ka," she said. After that she waved every time our paths crossed. And a couple of weeks in she turned up at my door with a plate of po pia tod, the little fried rolls, and informed me she had made far too many. Which was a bald-faced lie, and both of us knew it, standing right there. She just wanted to be good to the old man down the hall. Across from me were Sombat and Suri, both in their middle 60s. He had driven one of those Songtao trucks 30 years. She had worked hotels her whole life. He had enough English to get by on. She had almost none at all. did not matter in the slightest. Both of them were fluent in the only language that counts. One afternoon the air conditioner quit. Middle of the day, 95 out. I did not have a soul to call, and no notion of how I would explain it if somebody picked up. I was standing in my front room with my shirt going through at the back when somebody rapped on my door. Somebot. You okay, Loong Dennis? I hear you walking. I think maybe something is broken. I pointed at the unit. He gave it 10 seconds, took out his phone, and rattled off something in Thai I did not catch one syllable of. 10 minutes later, a man came up with a toolbox and had it blowing cold inside a quarter hour. 180 baht, $5, and Sombat would not take a coin off me for placing the call. We are neighbors, is all he said, as though that settled every question a man could ask. And maybe it does. That was about when a thing started to dawn on me. Back home, I lived in one house for close to 20 years. I had neighbors that whole time and did not know a single meaningful thing about any of them. We waved. We said something about the weather or how the bears were getting along, and then we went inside and shut our doors. If that air conditioner had died in Rockford, I would have phoned a company, waited 3 days, and handed a man $200. Here I knocked on a door across the hall, and it was running before supper. And it was not only the building, it was the whole town. There is a shop-house coffee place near the pier, 3 tables and a fan going, and I started turning up every morning. Black coffee and a length of patongo, the fried dough they do. By my 3rd morning, the young woman at the counter, Nan, had my order in the air before I got my wallet out. Same, she would say, grinning at me. One morning I got all the way to the counter before I realized I had walked out without my wallet. I started in on apologizing. Nan waved her hand like I was being ridiculous. Tomorrow, she said. You pay tomorrow. That young woman put her trust in a foreign old man she had known a week. Go try that at a coffee chain in Illinois some morning. Piece by piece, Hua Hin quit being a foreign town I was staying in and turned into the place where I lived. I found the shape of my days. Up around 7, down to Nan's. Around 11 I would walk to the market for fruit. Mangoes, rambutan, which looks like something that crawled off the ocean floor and tastes the way I imagine heaven does. Lunch at the rice shops. You point at what looks good. They build you a plate, $1 and change, and the food. My Lord, the food. Gang som, that sour orange curry that clears your head from the inside. Tom yum, pad see ew, mas almond with the peanuts in it. I could not have named one of them at first. I ate all of them anyway. Afternoons I would go to the mall, and I know how that sounds coming out of a man's mouth. But the malls over there are where the whole town goes, to get out from under the heat, to be near other people. Evenings I stayed in, out on the balcony, watching the water go dark. Sometimes I could hear Sombat and Suri talking low through the wall, in a language I could not follow but had started to know the music of. It was quiet out there. It was not lonely. Those are 2 different things, and I had forgotten there was any daylight between them. I started making friends. Began showing up to the Thursday meetups at a bar off the main strip. Americans mostly, a few Australians, one Canadian you could hear from the street. All of us trying to work out how a man actually does this part of it. There was a fella named Walt out of Oregon, 4 years in. He told me the first year is the one that will take a run at you. You will get days where you are certain you have made a jackass of yourself, he said. You will miss things. A decent slice of pizza, roads laid out by somebody sober, people who understand sarcasm. But ride it out, he said, and it turns over. You quit holding this place up against the old one, and that is when you start living in it instead of comparing it. He was right on every count. There was a young Canadian woman there, Stephanie, who asked me one night what had really brought me over. I sat with the question a while, and then I told her the truth of it. I said, I did not want to spend whatever I have left of this waiting around to die. She nodded. did not flinch, did not try to fix me. She just said, "Yeah, that makes sense to me." And the two of us sat there in the dark a good while longer and watched the street go by. 3 months in, I got my first real fright. I woke one morning with a pain in my chest. Not a terrible one, but there. I am 71, and I have had blood pressure trouble for years, and a man my age does not turn over and go back to sleep on a thing like that. I took a taxi over to Bangkok Hospital Hua Hin and told the nurse behind the desk what was going on. She did not ask about insurance. She did not slide a clipboard across at me with 20 pages on it. She looked at me, and she believed me, and inside 10 minutes I was flat on a bed with a curtain pulled around. 20 minutes, and they had run an EKG. The doctor came through. Younger man, name of Sutep. He read the strip, and then, instead of standing over me the way they do, he pulled up a stool and sat down and asked me questions. How long has this been happening? Any trouble getting a breath? What did your father die of? And it was not my heart at all. It was acid reflux, too much coffee, no breakfast to speak of, and a freight of stress I had been hauling around without ever setting it down. The whole business, the visit, the EKG, the medicine, came to 1,100 baht, $32. Back home, Medicare and all, that morning runs into the hundreds before a soul lays a hand on you. I sat in the back of that taxi with the receipt balled up in my fist and thought about Laura standing in my front room. What happens the first time you get sick? She had been picturing the worst thing her mind could build, and I understood why. But what she could not know, until she was standing in it herself, was that I was not helpless out here. Nobody had abandoned me. I had good doctors. I had people who would notice if I did not come down for my coffee. I had a life. I rang her that night and gave her the whole thing without shaving the corners off it. Long silence on the line. Are you all right? Her voice was pulled tight as wire. I am fine, I told her. Reflux. Another silence. You scared me, Dad. I know I did. But I am all right. And Laura, listen to me. The hospital here is good. It is genuinely good. She said nothing for a while. And then, lo, I still wish you were not so far from us. I know, sweetheart, there are days I wish the same. And that was the truth. I miss them, miss the grandbabies something fierce. But I did not miss the life I had been living, and I could not have gone back inside of it, not even for them. Somewhere around the 6-month line, the whole thing turned over. I quit being a visitor. I became a resident. I knew which trucks ran which way and what a fair fare was. I knew which woman at the market had the good mangoes and which one would spot the foreigner coming. I knew the security man at the building, Lung Wee Chai, and every evening he would look up and smile and say, "Good evening, Lung Dennis." And I noticed something I had not expected. I was happy. Not the article you paste on your face when somebody asks how you are getting along. The genuine thing. I would come awake in the morning and feel like there was something in the day that was mine. Not that it was easy. I would stand at a bank counter running headlong into the language and want to put my head through the glass. Homesickness jumped me out of nowhere. I would see a photograph of a grandchild and feel it go in under the ribs like a splinter. But those days did not run the place anymore. And the good ones were very good indeed. I started volunteering at a community center a few streets from me. They ran an after-school program and needed somebody to sit with the kids and work on their English. I am no teacher, never did anything like it. But I figured, what am I short of out here? Afternoons? Those children were something else. They would come in still in their school uniforms and we would crowd around a table and go at reading and writing and plain talking. Hungry for it, every one of them. There was one girl, 8 years old, called Mint, who had 1,000 questions for me every week and never once ran out. Lung Dennis, is there really snow? Lung Dennis, does everyone in America drive a big car? Lung Dennis, Why did you come to us?" And I gave her the honest answer. I said, "Because I was after somewhere warm, and somewhere folks still smile at a stranger." She turned that over, and then she told me, "We smile because we are happy." Well, there is not much a man can add to that. I got in deeper with the expats too. Helped put together a drive to get books and supplies out to a school past the edge of town. It felt good to be some use again. It had been a long time. One of the men I got closest to was Harold, Florida, 73. Harold talked in a way that was half wisdom and half wisecrack, and you never knew which had arrived until it was already out. He said to me once, "Dennis, you want the whole secret to being content in this country? Keep your expectations down around your ankles and your gratitude up around the ceiling. Take it as given that things will go sideways. Be thankful on the days they do not. Do that, and there is nothing left in the world that can disappoint you." I have chewed on that one more than he knows. It was about then, 7 months along, that Laura told me she was coming. Not Curtis, not Diane, Laura. The one who had walked those 4 buildings. The one who had carried the brochures into my house in her bag. She did not ask my permission. She just sent word. I bought a ticket. I land in 3 weeks. I had her on the phone inside a minute. "Why in the world would you not ask me first?" "Because I knew what you would say," she told me. "You would say it costs too much and it is too far, and I did not want to hear any of it. I just wanted to come see you." I did not have the first idea what to do with that, so all I said was, "I am so glad. Those 3 weeks took about a year to get through." I cleaned that apartment like a general was coming. I did not want to tell her I was doing well. I wanted her standing in the middle of it, seeing for herself. She came in on a Friday. I was at that airport an hour early because I could not sit still. And when she finally came through with her roller bag, looking like she had not slept in a day and a half, I very nearly walked past her. She had cut all her hair off. Then she caught sight of me, and her whole face came open. "Hi, Dad." "Hi, sweetheart." And the 2 of us stood in the middle of that terminal holding on to each other longer than we had in years. Riding down to Khao Ta Kiab, she just watched out the window, the traffic, the bikes, the whole glorious racket of it. Finally she said, "It is so different than I pictured." "It is." She turned in the seat and looked at me. "Are you actually all right out here, Dad? Truly?" "I am. I truly am." She nodded, slow, like a woman still deciding what she believed. That first night she came around to mine for supper. I had ordered about half a restaurant, grilled fish, noodles, curry, rice enough for 6, and there were 2 of us at that table. She tried every dish. She did not love all of it, but she tried all of it, and I loved her for that. And then we carried our plates out to the balcony, and I watched my daughter look out at that black water while the lights came up along the beach. "This is what you see," she said. Every night. She went quiet a long while, and then it came out of her. "I thought you were running from us." That one landed square, but I did not put my guard up. I just asked her, and now... She kept her eyes on the water. "And now," she said, "I wonder if you were running at something instead." I had her a week, and I gave her every hour of it. She bit into a fresh mango at the market and announced it the finest thing she had ever eaten. At the community center she met my kids, and little Mint asked outright if she was my daughter, and when Laura said yes, Mint told her, "You are lucky. He is very kind." Laura had to turn around and study a wall for a second on that one. And I took her to the hospital because I knew she would not rest until I did. She is a paralegal. She lives on the details and the worst cases, so we walked the whole building. We sat down with an administrator who answered every question she had, and she had 100 of them. What does it cost? What does insurance cover? What happens if it is serious? And she got real answers from a professional without a flicker. Walking out, she said, "All right, that is a load off. Dad, this is legitimate. I did not expect it to be this legitimate, But what actually cracked the thing open came on day 5. We were coming up from the beach and ran straight into Ploy, coming the other way with both her children. She stopped and shook Laura's hand and asked how she was liking the town. The kids went shy the way they do, and then the boy, Beam, asked Laura whether she wanted to see the picture he had made at school that day. She said she did. He dug a folded square of paper out of his bag, a house and a family standing out in front of it, and he put his finger down on a figure off at the side, standing a little apart from the rest of them. "That is Loon Dennis," he told her. "He lives by us. He is nice." Laura looked at the paper, then at Ploy, then at me. She did not say one word, but I watched her eyes go and fill right up. Later, back at my place, she sat on my couch and took the whole room in, the plain furniture, the fan going around, the balcony door open with the warm night pushing in. "Do people here just look out for each other like that?" she said. "A great many of them do. That does not happen at home anymore." "No, it does not." And she was quiet a while, and then she said, "I understand it now. Understand why you stayed." Before she went back to her hotel that night, she put both arms around me and said into my shoulder, "I am sorry. I am sorry I made you feel like you were not allowed to want this. You did not do that. I did. We all did. And I am sorry for it, Dad." I told her it was all right, and I was not being kind. It was the truth. She flew out 2 days after. At the airport she held on to me so hard I thought somebody would have to pry her loose. And just before she went through, she turned back and said, "I am going to tell Curtis and Diane. I am going to tell them you are not lost. You are not in any trouble. You are living." And then, and Dad, I am proud of you. I cried the whole way home in that taxi. Ugly, grateful, 71-year-old crying, and I did not care what the driver made of it. A month after Laura went home, Diane rang me. Not to check up on me. She called to say she and her husband had been talking about flying out. "If that would be all right with you," she said. "More than all right." "Laura told us everything," she said. "Showed us the pictures. She says it is not what we thought it was. It is not. I would like to see it for myself. Nothing would make me happier." She came 2 months on and stayed 10 days. And the same thing happened to her that had happened to her sister. I watched my daughter stop hunting for the problem and start seeing the life in front of her. She sat down with my friends. She walked that hospital end to end. She ate whatever I set in front of her. She sat out on that balcony with me and watched the Gulf go dark. Her last night, she said, "I was so certain you would be miserable over here. I was certain you would be alone. I am not. I can see that you are not," she said. And then, almost like it cost her something to get it out, "You look younger, Dad." "I feel younger." And she smiled at me. A real one, the kind she used to have. "Good," she said. "That is really good." Curtis came 4 months behind her, and he was the hardest of the 3 by a country mile. Practical to the bone. He wanted numbers. What is the long-range plan? What happens when you cannot manage on your own? Who does the managing then? Every one a fair question. And I had an answer for all of them. The insurance, the savings, the people. I was not out there on a wing and a prayer, and I showed him so. By the end of his stay, even Curtis laid down his arms. "All right," he said. "You did think this through. I told you as much. I know. I did not believe you. And now?" He shrugged and looked out over that water a while. "And now," he said, "I am a little jealous." I got a laugh out of that one I am still getting mileage from. 2 years it has been, 2 years since that Sunday on Laura's couch with the brochures fanned out. 2 years since I did the thing every one of them was certain would end in disaster. And here is what has come of it. My children do not worry about me. They call. They come. But the flavor of it has changed. It is not concern anymore. It is curiosity. They want to hear what I have been up to. what I cooked, what I found. They ask me for advice now, which after 71 years is a novelty I have not tired of. Laura has been back twice. Diane wants to bring the grandchildren. Curtis has been looking into retirement visas for himself, and he says he is only joking, but I have known that boy since the hour he was born, and he is not joking. And me. Every morning I come awake in my little place down at Khao Ta Kiab. I make the coffee. I carry it out onto the balcony, and I sit and watch the Gulf come up out of the dark. And every so often I think about how near a thing it was, how close I came to spending whatever I had left in a rocking chair at a place called Whispering Pines, waiting on somebody to remember to visit on a Sunday. Now, I am not going to sell you Thailand as paradise. It is not. There is plenty here that will run a man out of patience. The paperwork will aid you. The traffic is what it is. The power drops out in the rainy season, always in the middle of a call with my grandson. There are days I would give real money for an Italian beef sandwich. Days I miss a proper autumn. Days I miss getting in a car and being at my family's table. But those are small things. Hold them up against what I got, and they weigh nothing at all. What I got was a community, a reason to be upright before noon, the plain, ordinary, enormous thing of waking up and feeling like my life still counts for something, like I still count for something, not as somebody's father, not as an item on somebody's calendar, just as Dennis, the old man down at Khao Ta Kiab, who does reading with the children on Wednesdays, who takes his coffee at Nan's, who sits out over that water at night feeling like the luckiest fool the Lord ever made. A few weeks back, Ploy knocked on my door. Something was wrong with her laptop. Took me all of 10 minutes. And when I put it back in her hands, she said, "Kop kun ka, Loong Dennis. You are a blessing to us." I did not have anything ready for that. So I told her the only true thing I had, "You have been a blessing right back." And I was not being polite. It is simply a fact. This place, these people, this whole life I did not even understand a man was permitted to want. They saved me. That is not too strong a word for it. I am 71 years old, and I am not finished. Not by a long stretch of road. Before I let you go, there is one thing I want to put in front of you, in case you were sitting tonight about where I was sitting. There is a book out there, and it goes by the name The Right Move. It lays out the real numbers, the cities side by side, how the visa works when you are standing in the office, and the traps that catch people who walk in with their eyes shut. I did not write it. I am not selling you anything, but if you are giving this serious thought, and you want it without the polish on it, I believe it would do you some good. The link is down below. No pressure from me at all. And, listen, if any of this found you tonight, I would take it kindly if you would tap the like and follow along. There are more of these on the channel, and I think they would be worth your evening. Thank you for sitting with me. Take care of yourself. I will see you next time.